when the HOA crossed the wrong family. Chapter 1. The Pink Slip. I stare at the bright pink paper tucked under my windshield wiper, my stomach dropping like a stone. $150 fine. Driveway violation. It read in big, bold letters. My heart pounded. This was our own driveway. The night before, we'd hosted my sister Kayla's graduation party, and a few relatives had stayed over, parking their cars in our driveway. It was late when I went to bed, and everything had seemed perfectly normal. "Dad," I yelled, storming back into the house. "You need to see this." My father, David Whitaker, looked up from his morning coffee, eyebrows furrowed. As a senior loan officer at Summit National Bank, Dad was no stranger to rules and regulations, but the citations still puzzled him. "This makes no sense," he muttered, reading the paper. "It says we violated Section 7.3 of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA rules by having more than 2 vehicles in the driveway." Mom joined us in her robe, still groggy. "That's ridiculous. This is our home." Dad picked up the phone. "I'm calling the HOA." He switched to the speaker. A cold, clipped voice answered, "Oak Ridge Estates HOA. This is Melissa Cartwright speaking. This is David Whitaker from 316 Willow Creek Lane. We received a violation for having family cars parked in our own driveway." "That can't be right." The laugh that came through the phone wasn't friendly. "No mistake, Mr. Whitaker. Section 7.3 clearly states that no more than 2 vehicles may be parked in any resident's driveway. You had 5. That's a $150 fine." "Melissa, this was for a graduation party. Overnight guests. Surely there's an exception for special occasions. Rules are rules. If everyone ignored them, this place would look like a junkyard. The fine is due in 10 days, or it doubles. Can I appeal this at the next board meeting? You're welcome to try. But I'm the HOA president, and I personally documented the violation." Chapter 2. The Queen of Oak Ridge. As the call ended, I peeked through the blinds and saw her, Melissa Cartwright. She stood in her driveway across the street, talking on her phone and staring directly at our house. Clad in stylish activewear, she had the triumphant look of someone who had just won a petty battle. "Dad, I think she's watching us," I whispered. Dad joined me at the window. Melissa Cartwright. Moved in 6 months ago, elected president last month. This is the first time I've ever spoken to her. That afternoon, we pulled out the HOA documents. Sure enough, the rule existed, but buried on page 41 of a 60-page PDF we had barely skimmed when we moved in. "This is absurd," I said. "Why would anyone care about a few parked cars for one night?" "Some people like power," Dad said. "We'll pay the fine for now, but I want to look deeper into these rules." Just as we sat down for dinner, the doorbell rang. Mr. Livingston, our next-door neighbor, stood with a worried look. "Sorry to bother you, David. I saw your citation. I just wanted to say, she's not stopping. She had my son's basketball hoop removed last week, after it had been up for 5 years. He told us how the Johnsons were fined for having non-approved flower colors, and how Mrs. Ellison, an elderly widow, got a warning about her bird feeder being 2 inches too tall. She's on a power trip, and none of us know how to stop her." Chapter 3. The investigation begins. The next morning, another pink slip. This one was for improper lawn maintenance. $1.75 for grass, supposedly exceeding 3.5 inches. "Dad, she's targeting us," I said. He nodded, taking the paper. "I figured as much. I mowed 4 days ago. This is harassment." Mom looked furious. "Should we call a lawyer?" Dad shook his head. "Not yet. I learned something interesting last night. The HOA is applying for a $1.5 million loan to renovate the community clubhouse. And they've applied through Summit National Bank, my bank." I blinked. "No way." Dad grinned. "And guess who's been assigned to review their application?" My eyes widened. "You." Sometimes the universe balances things out. We watched from the window as Melissa walked by with a camera and a measuring tape, inspecting our front lawn. "She has no idea who she's messing with," I murmured. Chapter 4. The Tides Turn. By the end of the week, we had 5 more citations. Excessive windshield noise, a hose not stored properly, a garden gnome not on the approved list, and a mailbox that was one shade darker than permitted black. Total fines, $425. But Dad hadn't paid any of them. Instead, he was making calls every night, compiling records, studying HOA bylaws, and cross-referencing documents. Soon, our living room was filled with neighbors. Mr. Livingston, the Johnsons, Mrs. Ellison, even a reclusive Dr. Patel. Each had their own story. I was fined for leaving my medical supply box on the porch for 4 hours, Dr. Patel said. I was in surgery. Mrs. Ellison's voice shook. She says my bird feeder attracts vermin. I've lived here 32 years. Those birds are all I have. Dad stood up and opened his laptop. Last year, before Melissa became president, the HOA issued about $6,000 in fines. In just 2 months under her leadership, they've collected over $150,000. Gasps filled the room. Worse, Dad continued. None of that fine money is reflected in the HOA's financial reports. What does that mean? Mrs. Johnson asked. It means the money might be going somewhere else, and they're applying for a $1.5 million loan. That's a serious issue. He revealed he'd requested an audit as part of the loan review. Melissa didn't know who was behind it. Chapter 5. The Meeting. The next Tuesday, the HOA meeting was packed. Melissa looked shocked by the turnout. When she tried to gloss over the loan details, Dad stood up. As this loan uses our property as collateral, we're entitled to full disclosure. It's in the bylaws. Cornered, Melissa admitted they were borrowing $1.5 million from Summit National Bank. When pressed, she admitted to unexpected requests for documentation. Then Dad struck. Your quarterly report shows only $3,200 collected in fines. We've all paid more than that. Where's the rest? A man in the back shouted. I paid my fine 8 weeks ago. You cashed my check the next day. The room exploded. Melissa pounded her gavel. This meeting is adjourned. After the meeting, she hissed at Dad. You're making a powerful enemy. I'm just ensuring rules are followed. All of them. Chapter 6. The Final Straw. That night, Melissa snuck into our yard, uprooted our plants, and left another citation. $200 for landscaping debris. She didn't know our doorbell camera caught everything. The next day, Dad received the full loan packet. It was his decision now. He pored over financials, discovering even deeper fraud, inflated income reports, missing receipts, and evidence of bribes. Melissa cornered me, threatening our family if Dad didn't approve the loan. When I told him, he called his bank's legal department. It was now a criminal investigation. 3 days later, the bank requested a meeting with the entire HOA board. Melissa was spiraling. One board member moved away suddenly. Whispers spread. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. At the emergency meeting, Melissa presented fake documents. But just as it seemed we were outmatched, a message came through from an unexpected source. Melissa's daughter, Natalie. Safe behind my mother's desk. Within an hour, Mr. Livingston retrieved the original ledger. Natalie confirmed she had given permission. Mr. Gonzalez, a retired judge, reviewed it and declared, this is embezzlement. The vote to remove the board passed overwhelmingly. Melissa and her allies were gone. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. Weeks later, Melissa returned the stolen funds and moved out. Natalie stayed. Maybe we can be friends now, she said. A revised HOA charter passed. Fair rules. Transparency. We held our first community block party. Music, food, laughter. Cars lined our driveways. No citations. No fear. Dad sat beside me on the steps. Funny how standing up to something wrong can make everything right. And as neighbors cleaned up together under the stars, I realized the most valuable thing in Oak Ridge Estates wasn't real estate. It was the people finally free to be neighbors again.